All right. My thing is this. They literally executed this in front of the entire goddamn world on camera.
Yes.
And they covered the whole thing up in front of us on camera.
Also, yes.
All right. Now, why was the wreckage so quickly cleaned up and sent to China to get resmelted?
That's a good question.
What about, when you watch some of those buildings fall, they fell at free fall speed.
Ooh, I can answer this one.
And I don't, well, hang on.
Go ahead, keep going.
And I do not recall, maybe I'm wrong, and some people out there can back me up. Just do a simple search for skyscrapers that collapsed into their footprint because of fire. Huh. I believe there's none.
Fire. Mr. Carter! Mr. Carter, pick me!
Yep. But we also have to remember that Building 7 was not struck by any kind of anything.
No, it was not.
And that's the building. When I saw that thing come down, I'm like, there is no fucking way that the amount of damage that building took should cause it to fall at free fall speed.
That, and there totally wasn't a BBC news reporter on camera saying the World Trade Center Tower 7 had collapsed 7 minutes before it collapsed. It was literally in the background.
Correct.
I'm just saying.
I have a theory based on sound reasoning about that incident. So here's the thing. I've mentioned before some of the stuff that I did. One of them was in Korea when I was civil affairs. One of the things we would do is area assessments. Pop, you ever work in area assessment?
Yes, many times.
So we did the city of Seoul and Busan one year, and we're taken around by our counterparts in the Korean military and shown everything. We were taken into some of the towers along the Han River in Seoul. There's a Trump Tower there, by the way, and taken into the under recesses of these towers and up into the structures and everything like that, the places the public doesn't get to go. And remember that the city of Seoul sits in range of the DMZ and 11,000 pieces of North Korean artillery. Okay? So if they start hammering and these skyscrapers start taking hits, and those hits unfortunately start to compromise the structure of the tower, do you want a tower falling over into your population? Or would you rather sacrifice whoever is in it and just drop it?
It's the
from a strategic standpoint. What's better for you?
Just drop it. That's what I would do.
When we were going through these buildings, this was 1998. We were shown explosive packs, and I have put my hand on them in the buildings that were there in case the buildings were hit with artillery fire, so that they could be dropped as fast as possible in their footprint, and they were set in an upward spiral pattern. Does that sound familiar to anybody in the room?
And if you, on that website that I sent to you, there's all kinds of testimony about
there's a ton of video facts,
explosions and shit.
Yeah.
So
we saw them when we were watching that. When I stood there watching the tower for a couple of minutes, we were getting ready to get out there, and we were all gathered at the unit in the team room. We saw the towers drop, and every one of us go, "That got blown."
Yep.
Look at that. That got blown because it went around the tower, and then the tower went.
Yep.
Just like that. That is a controlled demolition. Absolutely a controlled demolition.
Now listen.
So
Even
Go ahead.
if it was demoed into its own footprint, they should just tell us what they did. Right? Just go, yeah, okay, we had to drop the building because we thought it was going to fall. I would be on board believing that.
Yes.
But instead, they're making up this whole fucking bullshit.
Correct.
And the thing that really, they're never going to convince me that 3 floors burning in Tower 7 caused it to fall into its own footprint at free fall speed.
Nope.
Suck all the dicks, because I don't believe it.
Yep.
Building 3 or building 3, building 7. I cannot tell you why that was dropped. I do not know. Okay. I don't have any idea. What I can tell you is some of the analysis that we saw coming out of the think tanks that was being directly fed into certain other agencies of the government that I'm not at liberty to name at the time.
Yep.
Also, I learned later on, some years later, that those towers were unique. They had a feature no other building had. Straight up the core of both of those buildings was either 1 or 2 hollow tubes all the way up.
It was 2.
Okay, and 2 per tower.
Uh-huh.
And underneath those buildings was the New York subway, which had been there for 100 years. And all of those layers of tunnels and all that cold air rushing and being pushed by those subway trains. So when you get an airliner, it hits that building, and all of that fuel is not going to catch fire right away. It's going down those tubes. Then it starts to catch fire. Then you've got air rushing up the tube. Now you've got that tube, which is, what was it, like 1,800 feet tall?
I have no idea.
I don't remember the height. It's big. It's tall. What you've done is create a massive blast furnace. The building's infrastructure was made from iron and steel. We know that. All of the other stuff was made from aluminum. So this is my theory, okay? I've already said the charges were there. They blew that shit. I know they blew that shit. You could see it. It's plain as day. It goes boop, right up around the tower. Come on. We're not idiots. But the thermite everybody says they found that was all over the city, as that collapsed, remember that building is pulverizing itself, and it just had a blast furnace in its core. So you've got steel and aluminum and iron everywhere, which would have been powdered and turned into dust by that building, the force of it falling in on itself. You wouldn't need the thermite, is what I'm getting at. All you need is to let the assholes hit the buildings and then blow the building. I'm not denying or telling people they're idiots or any of that stuff at all. I'm saying it's just unnecessary.
If you open up that web page, open it up so we can see it.
Oh, Jimmy, hit the button.
And go down. All right.
Buy me a drink first.
Where is it? All right. Go back up to the top. There's a whole thing there that talks about the thermite. Hang on. Go to evidence.
Evidence.
Click evidence. All right. Go down.
I clicked evidence.
All right.
Buy me a drink first.
Right in there, you'll see the thermite. I can't read it on this screen, but you'll see it.
Hang on. I can.
Yeah, if you could zoom in a little bit there.
Nanothermite composites. Nanothermite composites.
There we go. Click on that.
Okay. Have you?
How long is that?
5 minutes.
All right, we're not watching the whole thing. What they're going to go through here is they're going through a lot of this evidence here. Now, this is independent people. We're talking engineers and architects dug into the 9/11 Commission report and ripped it fucking apart. Now, in regards to the thermite, they found the nanothermite. Now, granted, maybe there was a bunch of chemical processes taking place while the building's coming.
Wait. I need to hit your pause button here. You're an 18 Bravo.
Yes.
Okay. You have forgotten more about weaponry than I will ever know.
Yes.
But you and I both know how to make thermite, and it happened in your mother's basement one day when we were replacing an old iron support pole, and all this rust came out, and there was some tinfoil sitting over on the counter, and we were like, thermite.
That's the first thing we said. We look at each other. Thermite.
Yeah, we're fixing his mother's basement, and the first thing out of our mouths is thermite. Okay. I've seen my share of ordnance, and God knows you have.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever heard of nanothermite? And what the fuck would you use nanothermite for to bring down a building the size of the towers when you've already got charges in the son of a bitch, and you have some idiot fly a plane into it?
Well, number
You
one.
don't need that. That's what bothers me about the thermite theory.
Well, here's the my opinion on the thermite theory.
Okay.
Is you and I both know you have primary, alternate, contingent, emergency plan.
Yes, pace. Yep.
I think the primary plan is to have it get hit with the planes and then blow it. But just to make sure it came down into its own footprint, you cook off a bunch of thermite in critical places to weaken it so it will. Because I do not believe there has been a skyscraper reinforced building of any height
No, that was the first.
that
was the
fell
first.
down because of a fire. And I think that's the only time it's ever happened.
Let me insert this thought then. We know, without a doubt, there's no question that tower was blown after the planes hit it, right?
Yes.
What if there was thermite in the charges that were already there?
That is a possibility.
What if it was already there? The only problem I have with the thermite theory is you're using a mouse to rape an elephant. You need serious charges to do something like that. You're not going to do it with nanothermite.
Well,
How would you control that burn in such a uniform way over such a vast surface area with thermite? Because thermite burns. It does not explode. For those out there who don't understand what thermite does, it just burns.
it just burns fucking crazy hot.
6,000 degrees centigrade.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one of the main things why I think there was some thermite there. It's the amount of molten metal that
I would put it in the charges.
You could see it falling out of the building.
Here's what I would do in theory, and you're the demo guy. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. I'm placing charges to cut a bridge, right? And this bridge has got an ass ton of iron in it.
Correct.
Now, if I couple the explosive charges with some thermite to make sure that if the explosive charge doesn't cut that metal, I've got the thermite burning, backing me up to melt that last little piece of the strut or structure. Would that be a reasonable thought?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I wasn't there.
We're taking down a huge thing here. We're talking an enormous object.
But you and I both know if you're going to destroy something, it takes more than just you got to have your alternate and your contingency methods of.
Absolutely.
Because if you think when they blow up,
that's what I'm proposing is that the thermite was an alternate or a contingency.
Yeah, I think so too. Because you ever watch them demo any of those old buildings in Vegas?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, first of all, they have primary, alternate, and contingent charges. So they set up.
They did that with the palace here in Detroit, and it didn't go. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then it stood there, and everybody's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, this is gonna be bad.
There goes $85,000.
I don't know. My thing is that's 911truth.org. You guys can go there yourself and get up to speed on what the whole 9/11 thing. The reason we're talking about that right now, it's been 23, 24 years, quarter of a century since that nightmare unfolded.
Yep.
But they did it once.
They're going to do it. They will do it. They will do this again.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it's going to be even bigger.
Yep. And you're not the only one, Pop. Elon Musk was tweeting out saying that based upon everything that we've done, or not we've, but our government has been allowing, and everything that's been overlooked, how long is it going to take until some shit actually really starts to fucking cook off here?
Not long now, I think.
Texas literally just had its biggest wildfire ever on record in history. It has completely pulverized the beef production companies and whatnot in the panhandle of Texas. If you haven't heard about that, I suggest you look it up because holy shit. It's not like the mashed potato and brains went on and said, "Oh, you look at all these structures and they were all burned to the ground except for this one because it had the right roof." Now, remind me what happened in Hawaii a few months ago and which
Last year.
structures were saved because of quote the correct roof.
Well, my thing is this.
Just saying.
Wildfires are really hard to actually pin on anybody
Yes, they are.
because you can literally, and I know guys that did this in Detroit back in the day during Devil's Night. Say their kids had to walk by a building that was a drug house on their way to school, and they call the cops, they do all this stuff. Well, let's maybe a timed device gets left there, and conveniently it just happens to go off.
That's a fun feature. Everybody bags on Detroit, but back in the day, back in the 80s when we had Devil's Night full swing, it was used for some in-house cleaning.
Yes,
Detroit is not the hole everybody thinks it was. We would really, those crack houses were favorite targets of Devil's Night.
Yeah, they'd go up. But what I'm trying to say here is you just think it through. It's really hard to get caught, especially a wildfire. I mean, you can literally, set that anytime you want.
All you would have to really do to cause some kind of wildfire, and I'm not saying this because I've researched it or anything, a magnifying glass on a stick is all you need.
Yes.
I'm just saying it.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for you guys to do that. I'm just saying that's all it would take.
Yes.
And you can actually do that with drones today.
Oh, yeah, the drone technology is getting
it's
getting scary. It's getting scary.
But my thing is this. All right. So we literally watched the event on 9/11 that basically scared the entire country into passing the Patriot Act, which has only gotten stronger and allowed big government to further weaponize the technology against you, the standard person.
The Patriot Act, by the way, was passed 28 days after 9/11. And this was an enormous bill that created whole new agencies.
What does that
whole
tell you?
new government police forces in 28 days. It was ready to go.
Yeah, it was already in the can, waiting for this to happen.
And that's how you know that 9/11 was undoubtedly at least a government-sanctioned action.
Yeah,
it was at least sanctioned by our government.
In my opinion, and I'm just an old infantry grunt here.
Yeah,
I believe that they caught wind of this plot. Maybe they threw some money at it to help it go along. But you and I both know in our heart of hearts that an event with that kind of coordination here in the United States could not take place without people running top cover for it.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And we saw later on, after the fact, that first year after the towers came down, what happened was we got to start seeing a lot of the intel that was involved with the organizations who had been tracking the guys that were responsible for it, the hijackers and all of that stuff. What happened was it looked like compartmentalization, where you've got the whole need to know thing. No, did you put hang on? I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. It looked like legitimate compartmentalization. But what it was bosses at the top tier of that unit or element saying, withhold this, or only give it to these guys. And we started to notice that pattern, and that was the beginning of when I started to realize just what it was that I was working for. And all the way through, you saw this strange withholding of intelligence that should have been shared through all of the organizations. And indeed, the excuse they used was stovepiping. Oh, we don't share with the FBI. Oh, we don't share with the CIA. Oh, we don't share with NSA. The fuck we don't. We always cross-pollinated. We were always working alongside of each other. I had to throw FBI guys out of a skiff because they were sniffing around in there with looking for stuff.
Yeah.
They just couldn't be on it. They could request it, and we would give it to them if it was in the mission profile, if they had the need to know, if they had been read onto the program. But this was different. This was deliberately withholding information, making it look like it was stovepiping, but denying access to information that was relevant to an ongoing series of missions. And I was in the middle of it. I was sitting right in the fucking middle of it.
Oh, this whole thing is just so distressing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a nut roll that well, hopefully
here's the thing.
Go ahead.
We have virus X on the
Yeah.
horizon, and they're like, I read some of the reports, it's like 98% fatal.
Oh, good.
And I'm sure they're probably going to, weaken it to a certain extent, so it's only like 50 or 60% lethal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to get released into the wild, and it's going to wreak absolute fucking havoc. And we all know it's coming.
Yeah.
Because they've already done it once with the pandemic. I think that was a rehearsal or a dry run for the big kahuna. Or it got out too early and it wasn't crafted properly. That's it.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And we
I have a third theory.
Lying out of every orifice on his goddamn body.
Oh, they all need to hang.
Yeah.
Let's knock it off. Every single politician and bureaucrat and all of their staffs in Washington, D.C. all need to be hanged for treason. Or misprison of treason. That's when you know that treason has been committed and you do nothing about it. But you have a responsibility to because of the office that you hold.
Yep.
Listen,
all of them.
If it gets down to the point where, freedom seeds are being released into the wild, all bets are off, because historically speaking, that's usually very, very bloody.
Yep.
And I gotta hang on. I gotta grab one of these out of the chat here. The hantavirus. I lost a buddy to that shit in Korea. Hantavirus does not spread easy at all. But if you do get it, basically your kidneys malfunction and you piss yourself to death. Yep. We watched a guy in Bravo Company piss himself to death, and it was fucking horrible. But Hanta is not a fast spreading disease. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
But like, I'm going to say this, and I've said it before. I've said it publicly, and a lot of people don't like it. But after what happened with the pandemic and how Trump handled it, whatnot, which he fucking fumbled that thing.
Yes,
he fumbled that. He fumbled it hardcore.
Be aware that all leaders are surrounded by people who absolutely control every single word that leader hears.
Yeah. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, it was the fucking, the Democrat governors and whatnot that caused all the debt. And no, it was Trump. He signed off on Operation Warp Speed,
mm-hmm.
which fast-tracked a bullshit poke and smoke that that may or may not contain AIDS or HIV. I said may or may not because I'm not sure on that one. Hasn't been confirmed. But, again, we're talking about the CDC and how wishy-washy they are. But, again, that was my main takeaway from me saying, I'm not going to vote for Trump. He is not my guy. He has done severe harm with being brash. He can't be wrong. He's always got to be right. He's always got to bring in these certain people. Well, those people are going to stab him in the back. And if those people that stab him in the back, I'm sorry, but he was supposed to represent this country and what we stand for. That is why this election, I don't even know if I'm going to vote, because of course I'm not going to fucking.
Are you trying to say that Trump was favoring a small Middle Eastern country of heavy contention rather than our own?
Oh, the ones with the fancy small hats?
No, let's stop there. Phrasing.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
I think we're on the same sheet of paper. Jimmy, you and I will have to have a conversation offline, because there are things I can say about this that I cannot say online.
Yes, let's save those conversations for the after party.
You're off the mark by 0.358 degrees.
You can still fire effect with that information, so you're good.
That's correct.
Okay,
all right. Let's roll through this, because we got to hit super chats here soon.
Yep, we do need to hit super chat soon. Let's go through some humbling facts about 9/11. I think we've established that we know that the government was responsible for this, but Pop and I have different theories how it got to that point. The employee who gave the order to ground all planes after the 9/11 attacks, it was his first day on the job. Imagine being that guy.
Wow.
Oh my God. September 11th, biggest disaster in American history. Never forget. So let's take in these 50 facts about that day. 9/11 killed 2,996 people. 400 were emergency personnel. That was the biggest loss. Aside from the two planes that were flown to the tower, a third plane hit the Pentagon, a fourth crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. Everybody's going to shriek there was no plane at the Pentagon. I know two people, including an Air Force pilot, who saw the plane hit. And I lost two guys there, Sergeant Grimm and Private White. The plane included 19 men who were part of a radical group. Bullshit. They were suckers who were allowed to do what they did.
Patsies.
Bin Laden originally denied having a part in the invasion, but I told that story off the air before the show, didn't I?
What
about the seal?
Yeah, we don't have any time for stories. Let's go through.
We won't do it. Okay, my bad. Cleanup for the 18 million tons of debris took 3.1 million man hours. It was finally finished on May 30th, 2002. That's not that short a period of time, dude. That's a year and a half it took them to clean that mess up. Ages of the victims, collapse of the second tower only took 10 seconds. That's demolition. Yep. Nothing falls in 10 seconds. Nothing falls in 10 seconds without demolition. After September 11th, the Department of Homeland Security is created to prevent further terror. Bullshit. It was created way before that. 184 people were killed by the planes hitting the Pentagon, including passengers. Okay. As of August 2017, only 60% of the victims remains in the positive because they were disintegrated.
Yeah.
Estimated it was cost $500,000 to carry out the 9/11. I'm guessing it was significantly more when you count the greased politicians.
Yep.
After the first attack, did I say that? After the first attack, it took 102 minutes for both of the Twin Towers to collapse. Assumed that the destruction was a protest against America's support of Israel. Shut up. Surprisingly enough, some of the terrorists that participated in the executing the plot had lived in the United States for. That is not surprising at all. We discussed that. They let them through. They concealed information. I know. I was there. Well, only 12 survivors were pulled out of the rubber of the towers. Wow. Go ahead.
We had these people attending one of 3 schools that actually taught that kind of piloting.
Yep.
3 fucking schools. And you're telling me nobody picked up on any of this craziness? That bullshit.
Their clearances were waved through.
Yeah.
Their security checks were. This came out later. I'm not speculating here. This information came out later. I think it was like a year or two later that the pilots of those planes, they learned to fly at those schools because their security clearances were mysteriously waved through, allowing them to attend flight school.
That doesn't sound fishy.
That is not me speculating. That is actual hard intelligence that came through.
And see if we can find those links and put them on in the low.
I'll see if I can find that stuff.
So people,
Look, we're right at the mark. I think this list isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. Basically, what we've been trying to inform you of here is the current panic of 2001 was, of course, 9/11. Now we've had the bullshit pandemic with the lockdowns, and everything is ramping up. Our border is being overrun. There's a new current panic being formed, and I don't know what it's going to be just yet, but Pop and I both pretty much agree that we're there and something is about to happen.
correct.
So
Yep.
get
All
your
right.
shit together, get your poop in a group.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the meat caser box.